So, I've finally gotten around to watching Mob Psycho. Yeah, I know. I'm very early to the party. I don't know why I put it off for so long, especially since it's by One, the highly acclaimed author of One Punch Man. Wait, I should get to reading that too. It's literally illustrated by Yusuke Murata. What am I doing? But finally, after 5 years, I finally started to watch Mob Psycho. Why? Well, I was going through the staff list of Mob Psycho a couple of days ago, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This show has quite possibly one of the most stacked casts of staff in terms of production, and I'll get into that later. I've also heard nothing but good about the series, and I've seen jaw-dropping action cuts from it time and time again, so I needed to see if this series was as magical as so many people make it out to be. And guess what? It's good. Really good. What a surprise. Anyways, I'll see you guys next week. The story takes place in metropolitan Japan, where people and things in general are pretty normal. Well, most people. There are a select few individuals in this world that are espers, basically people with psychic powers. Also in this world are spirits that are usually doing generic evil shit, and espers gotta step in and exorcise them. Our main character is a middle schooler named Mob, who is, you guessed it, an esper. But he's not any kind of esper. In terms of raw potential, Mob is displayed as the strongest esper ever. He does insane things even in the realm of espers without a drop of sweat, and is, well, very overpowered. Very overpowered. Now, a lot of shonen would progress the story with our overpowered MC going about taking down evil organizations and exercising curses and generally just being a Chad badass. But this is One we're talking about. So of course the path Mob takes would be anything but conventional. I mean, he has a full, complete, loving family and his dad is still present, so you know this won't be a regular shonen. Despite being an overwhelmingly powerful esper, Mob doesn't really use his psychic powers to his advantage all that much, and doesn't really have grand ambitions that anyone else who wielded his powers would usually have. He's just mostly a regular ass dude with mostly regular ass problems and regular ass dreams. Even though he supremely shines when it comes to psychic powers, he basically lacks in everything else, from his athleticism to studying in school. He has the power to make the world bow down to him, yet one of his goals is dating his childhood friend. Mob's character as a whole is by far one of my favorite parts of the show because of things like this. He's just so normal. Well, at least he tries to be. And that's what makes him so likable. He's not even close to perfect in all aspects, and watching him struggle and work hard to do things like build muscle and stay physically fit is so endearing. Especially since it shines a spotlight on the real heroes of the series. The Body Improvement Club. They're just so goddamn big for just being middle schoolers. They're just straight up grown ass men. It's hilarious. I love them. I know this premise of Mob's struggles in school to improve himself might sound great, but things get way more interesting when the story delves into more psychic related topics, stemming from the man that the anime community endlessly raises on a pedestal, the one and only Reigen Arataka. Even though I had never watched Mob Psycho until recently, I very much knew who this man was. A lot of people regarded him as one of the great teachers in anime, and being someone who was extremely entertaining and well written, especially when it came to his dynamic with Mob. And I can't blame anyone who's thought that, because, well, I'm starting to think it too. In the grand scheme of things, Reigen is just fascinating. He's a con man running an exorcism-based consultation shop and claims himself to be the greatest psychic of the 21st century. On the outside, he seems like a complete bum who uses Mob to complete exorcisms for his customers while brushing off his own ineptitude when it comes to psychic powers, giving excuses like he's simply too strong to take care of what he assigns to Mob. But Reigen is so much more than that. He's charismatic, witty, and straight up hilarious. He's also pretty talented at random things as well. Basically anything but actual psychic powers. All I'm saying is that Reigen is straight up comedy. This man's special techniques involve throwing salt. The man knows how to massage. Oh, and his ultimate move, Photoshop. The best part about him is his relationship with Mob. It isn't your typical master-student relationship. Reigen isn't just some legendary esper that's teaching Mob how to use his powers because, well, he isn't even an esper in the first place. But as the story progresses, we get to see how his words affect Mob and keep him rooted to this world. We see how he makes sure that Mob doesn't use his immense power to raise himself above others and think he's basically better than everyone else because he has psychic powers. He knows very well that Mob is pretty simple-minded and that he's basically just a kid, and comes to get him out of situations that only someone with his expertise would excel in. His words always have a lasting effect on Mob as well, and even in the most tense of situations, Mob remembers what Reigen told him and tries to keep calm, which ends up giving him the upper hand most of the time. Reigen's quotes hit really hard too. My favorites being, "You're the protagonist of your own life, it's okay to run away," and "Humans are humans. Nothing more, nothing less." These ideas Reigen tries to convey to Mob might sound like common sense, but given how Mob is often forced to use his psychic powers to save others and deal with other espers, they seem like 200 IQ big brain concepts in certain moments. Especially that last quote I mentioned. I really like how this series tries to hammer home the idea of espers not being superior compared to everyone else, and that some people may excel in certain things, but at the end of the day, everyone is human. In Season 1, a lot of the antagonists we see try to confront Mob with this ideology of espers being far above humans, just for the strongest esper of them all, Mob, to shut them down. From Teruki, who's got the most questionable hairstyle in the game, to Claw, a group of psychic weirdos that like kidnapping and beating the shit out of middle schoolers, because that sorta kinda makes sense in the grand scheme of nothing. Teruki's pretty cool now though, so I'll give him a pass. Mob not using his own psychic powers against people, and instead trying to be as passive and kind as possible due to what Reagan told him early on is beautiful. Especially when there are people out there who'd kill to have Mob's powers despite them currently having everything Mob could ever want. Like Mob's literal younger brother, Ritsu. As soon as I met this guy, I expected him to be that seemingly nice brother who's secretly harboring toxic feelings towards his brother due to having an inferiority complex, and I was right in that regard. I also expected him to become a completely evil edgelord and come to hate his brother over his psychic powers, and thankfully, I was completely wrong. I really liked Ritsu's character arc. The way he manifested powers due to being drowned in negative feelings was really interesting to see, even if it was due to odd acts by that weirdo school president. Man, that guy was just fucking creepy. Like, calm down, son, you're 13. Take it easy. Back to Ritsu. I really do like how he never completely wallowed in his negativity towards Mob for an extended period of time, and his feeling of love for his kind and gentle young brother kept him from straying onto an unfavorable path. He also came up really clutch when it came to escaping the clutches of Claw, and remained pretty badass after his brief stint of edginess after attaining his psychic powers. As for the actual psychic abilities themselves, let's move on to Mob's. The concept of keeping such a vast amount of latent psychic power bottled up until Mob reaches a certain threshold is really cool. I liked how Mob's progression of reaching 100% is shown by increments whenever he experiences some kind of heavy emotion. Him reaching 100% and unleashing a different emotion based on what he's strongly feeling at the time is also really neat, especially since these emotions vary so much, from anger to gratitude. Either way, it always results in a banger battle that blows me away. Speaking of the fights, can we talk about how good of an adaptation this is by Bones? I'm pretty sure everyone knows it by now, but Mob looks seriously amazing. From the intense fight scenes to just basic movements, everything's extremely well done. It seems like the anime perfectly captures one's art style and runs with it. It's extremely dynamic and sometimes changes drastically to show a change in mood, but that's to be expected given how stacked the staff list is for this show. The adaptation is helmed by Yuzuru Tachikawa, who's done work on Bleach and Attack on Titan, and his storyboards for Mob Psycho were simply amazing. Series composition is done by Hiroshi Seko, who's done work on Attack on Titan as well, and more recently, Jujutsu Kaisen. Character design is handled by Yoshimichi Kameda, who also worked on One Punch Man, which explains why one's art style was translated so smoothly onto the anime. And in terms of the key animators, where can I even begin? From Keiichiro Watanabe to Hakuyu Go to Norio Matsumoto to the one and only Yutaka Nakamura, Mob Psycho Season 1 is crazy stacked. Hell, even One himself did key animation on the 12th episode. The opening and ending are both bangers, and I liked how vastly different they were from each other in terms of visuals. I also want whatever the hell the storyboarder for the opening took to make that, because there's just, what the hell is even going on here? I don't know, but I love it. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the first season of Mob Psycho. Is there gonna be another video on Mob Psycho after I inevitably finish season 2 and read the manga? Who knows? Yes, there will be. What kind of fucking crazy person would drop this? Now that I think about it, why did I sleep on Mob Psycho for so long? I really wish I could go back in time and punch the me from 5 years ago.